mine the first 2 days.
So this truck feels soft.
It's fun, it's flowing. My girlfriend really likes it because there's not a lot of climbing.
All right, so I just picked up a 2024 Beta 450 RX, and I'm coming off the Yamaha 450, which is a good bike, very fast. The Yamaha is very fast. Got this Beta, and I just wanted to get everybody my opinion of it the first time I rode it and kind of break down some things that I think are important about this bike. So first off, when you get a new bike, this is something that I do. I always try to get the correct springs for my weight. If I would have rode this bike in stock form, it would have been set up for a 155 to 165 pound guy. That's why I think sometimes when you see these shootouts, they're not really accurate because those people are riding, you got a 200 pound pro guy or a 190 pound pro, and he's trying to ride a 155 pound sprung bike. And it makes it really hard to get a honest opinion of the bike because it's not sprung. And you know, some of the manufacturers, they put some whacked out spring rates in the bike. These ones seem pretty balanced. The cool thing about Beta is that they have the spring rate chart on Beta USA. So you can go in there and find out what spring it is for your weight. I'm 210 pounds. I opted with 5.2 front springs and a 5.9 rear spring, which was pretty good for my weight. I think I went one step stiffer in the front just because, you know, I ride vet pro still. The suspension was really good, very balanced. It was a good time. Right when I hopped on it, instantly comfortable on the suspension. The only thing as I really started pushing the bike was the high speed was a little soft, so I cranked the high speed all the way in. I did get my shock revalved. I'm going to go race the Vet Worlds. I got about 2 days on this bike. Going to go race the 40 Pro at Vet Worlds. So I just added a little more high speed compression. My buddy Chris at Barron Suspension added a little more high speed in the shock for me. Forks seem great. Only thing about the forks, if you're getting it in stock form, you respring it, you ride it stock, whatever, I don't think you want to go softer than the stock settings. I was riding it, thought it was too stiff, and I actually went softer, and I almost fell about 4 times because I was blown through the stroke. I ended up going stiffer once I realized that I made the wrong decision. I ended up going stiffer, and the bike was way better. So I think even at Glen Helen, I'm going to go to Glen Helen going down those hills. I could probably even go stiffer on the forks. But overall, suspension super balanced, feels really good. If you're a pro level rider, you might want to add just a little bit of more high speed. If you got a suspension guy that can stiffen up that high speed a little bit, just so it doesn't wallow and you know you're not going through the travel and having it bounce back on you. Aside from that, forks are good. I didn't really feel, you know, with the short window I have to get used to this bike before Glen Helen, I really didn't feel like I needed to touch the forks. I got plenty of adjustment. Just the shock was just the high speed. Got it sprung good. My buddy actually brought all his stuff to the track to valve it, and he asked, you know, if I wanted to mess with the forks at all, and I told him, no, just leave them. I said they're pretty good. The ergonomics of this bike, way more open rider compartment than the YZF. This bike, you know, if you're a taller guy, I mean, even a smaller guy, but it's super roomy. You'll never feel cramped. You'll never feel like you're in a squat when you're trying to stand up. The one thing I did love about it, which is funny because some of the other, like, you know, the big companies, they complain about the seat being too hard. I love a hard seat. This is awesome. This is the best stock seat I've ever ridden on. And it's actually got a good gripper where you're not sliding. So it's got great gripper seat, hard foam, and it's flat. So you can get up on the front of the bike and not feel like you're sliding into a pocket. You can move all over on this seat very, very easily. Bars. I have a bar video where I talk about bar bends. I love straight bars, you know, with minimal sweep. This comes with a set of bars that has almost no sweep to them at all. So I'm super stoked on the bars. I left the stock bars on. I'm not even going to change them for the World Bet. Stop grips. I've been running the ODI lock on softs. I saw these grips and I'm like, man, these things are going to be a little too thick for me. These are really good stock grips, kind of cushy. If you like a thinner grip, might not be your grip, maybe go with something thinner, but for a stock grip, you know, like some of the other manufacturers, their grips are hard as a rock, and I mean, they will hurt your hands, but these ones don't hurt my hands at all. Didn't feel the need to change them at all. So the grips are good. Yeah, just the seat's good. It might not be some people's cup of tea, but for me, I love a hard seat. I like a flat seat, and it doesn't feel like the foam's going to break down. That was kind of some of the issues with the other bikes I've ridden, is the foam breaks down. Brakes are super good on this. That was an issue I was talking about with my Yamaha on my last video when I kind of went over the Yamaha, was the brakes. These brakes are like a mix of Japanese brakes and European brakes. So they went with Nissan outers with Brembo internals, I believe. The brakes are super progressive, so you're not going to grab it and have that when you're like going to throw you over the bars. You grab them and it's a very consistent feel all the way through the front and the rear brakes. So there won't be like an instant lockup when you grab the brake, but although they are still very powerful. So good modulation. Cornering. This bike is very stable, and usually with a stable bike you don't think it's going to corner well, but I'll get to why I think this bike corners very good, and it's because of the motor. It's a stable bike, so I think this is a combination. I think Beta's kind of onto something with you know, having what they call rideability and stability. So you got stability, but because of the motor, it makes it very rideable through corners to where it's not going to have this stand-up feeling on you all the time. Let's go to the Brembo clutch. Felt like a, you know, similar to a KTM clutch, smooth action, no complaints there. I know some people have complained about the rev limiter. I never noticed it on the track, but I am not an over rever. I ride kind of in the mid range, which is why I think this motor is you know, good for me. The only spot I felt it is when I revved it up in the air, but it didn't affect me on the track. Like, it never came to a point where I'm like, that rev limiter is going to mess me up. It's going to make me crash. I would feel it in the air, I'd rev the bike, land, bike would take off. It's just different. It's just something you got to get used to. Couple things about working on it is the shock comes right out the side. Super cool, super easy. 3 bolts. Shock comes right out the side, so really easy to make shock changes. It's not a giant headache to take it off. And you got the push button seat, no bolts on the seat, press a button, seat pops off. So that's kind of cool, kind of lazy man's seat replacement. Air filter, you pop it off the side. Looks like the KTM kind of copy, but yeah, pull it off the side, no bolts, no wrenches needed, just pull it out, put a new one in. So I'll go back to the motor. So when I first hopped on this bike, I got on it and I was like, man, I'm like, there's no hit, you know, and thinking that I needed a hit to have a hit on the bike. So I was riding it around, it was smooth, but the first thing I found was I was going into corners and it was very easy to corner. And I was going down the straightaways going, okay, this bike's super stable. And usually when you have a stable bike, it does not corner that well. Well, because the motor was so smooth and linear, I was able to get in those tight inside ruts, the outside berms, and just go through them with ease. Never had a problem where I thought the bike was standing up. I had to hit the brakes in the middle of the corner. The bike was smooth. I rode it at Hangtown the first day. I always have on a stable bike, I have a tough time with the 2 tight corners at the top of the hill. This thing just laid right into those, no problem. You know, after the big Fly 150, no problem. So then the next thing I did, they had the Fly 150. I don't know, it's more like of a Fly 110 or 120 now. But I went there on my Yamaha a few weeks ago. I had to hit it pretty close to wide open to get over it. I was doing it from the inside. So first time, I'm like, okay, it's a 450. I'm going to go for it. I'm going up to the lip. I honestly didn't think I had enough speed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am not going to make it. This bike doesn't have enough power. I overjumped it by about 30 feet. So what that tells me with this bike is it's deceiving power. It's so smooth and so linear that you really don't realize how fast you're going because there is no hit. You know, like I remember I had a 2014 Suzuki and that bike had a hit, but it was one of the slowest 450s. When I rode that Suzuki, I thought it was faster than my KTM, but it was down 4 horsepower, I believe, or 3 horsepower to the KTM at the time. So just because it doesn't have a hit doesn't mean it's slow. When I overjumped it, I realized I had to back it down just to make it. And my buddy Colin Clay, who rode this bike, and he'll be in the video at the end here too, he talks about he did the exact same thing I did. Was going, I don't think I have enough speed, overjumped the jump by, you know, a good amount. So what that tells me is this bike, you know, I kind of like the way Beta is going with the motor because the rideability aspect of it, it's smooth and it inspires confidence. So it's smooth. You never feel like you're hanging off the back of the bike. Like we know on my Yamaha, I plastered grip tape, and I'm not Yamaha's, that was a great bike. I plastered grip tape all over it, just trying to hold on to the thing because I was flying off the back of that thing. This thing's smooth, easy. You can put it where you want it. I really like the motor. I rode it again yesterday at a local track. There's a jump out there that usually I'm pushing to get over it on, you know, in third gear on my Yamaha. This thing jumped it exactly the same, you know, but it was smooth. It didn't have that break the wheels out from under you power. All in all, it's a good bike. I'm excited to race it at the World Vet, but I just wanted to kind of give a breakdown of the Beta because I know there's 3 or 4 videos out there and they're kind of all over the place with the reviews. I think it's a very good bike. The motor's great, clutch is good, brakes are awesome, ergonomics are really good, and yeah, so that's just my kind of rundown of it. And then you can, you know, if you guys think I'm crazy, you can listen to my buddy Colin. He hopped on it and he was pretty impressed with it right from the get-go. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, the bike was very comfortable. I was very surprised from the moment I got on it. The ergonomics of the bike, I just got on it, it just felt natural. I've been riding Japanese bikes for the past however long, and this bike, I got on it and it was comfortable. I really noticed how smooth and deceiving the power was on it. Like really smooth out of the corners, so much so that on the uphill triple, my first lap I like flat landed it. I thought I was going to backside it, and the power is like sneaky. But the bike was just handled really good. It felt agile. I was able to corner in and out of the corners on it, and just overall, like, I'll just say like comfortable is probably the easiest way to say it, which applies to the chassis, the suspension, and the motor. I was really impressed with the motor. So